Gen Z is going to be the largest consumer group by 2020, somewhere north of 140 billion in direct spending power. Makes it a reasonable assumption that those are the right people to talk to. So if I can have you guys just unpack a little bit of the strategy. Phil, we'll start with you as you're thinking about connecting with these two important audiences.
Yeah, those are very important audiences to us at Honda. We used to say that they represented future purchase power, but really now that millennials have surpassed boomers in terms of the #1 car buying audience, we talk about it's a present opportunity. They're pivotal in terms of our gateway to the Honda brand, the Honda Civic. It is the #1 vehicle with both those audiences, and it's really our job, Ryan and I, to keep it that way.
Young people are more connected through smartphone, through Wi-Fi, have had access to be able to find communities and feel represented and feel connected more deeply than any other generation in history before that. I think this audience group supports brands who show up there and meet them there and contribute to that conversation in a meaningful way, and that's the kind of things that we're trying to do.
One of the things about sports teams is that, and also us, is that our sun and what we center around our fans. That's what matters most, is that relationship with them. But unlike other professional sports teams, we don't have this geographic predisposition towards fandom. Team Liquid doesn't have a home base, so we rely heavily on the narrative, the storytelling. I like to think about it as like conversation, being present and responsive and in tune with what you're saying and how you're responding to things. And so obviously the millennial and Gen Z audience are just core to who we speak to create fans and that fan affinity index.
Phil, how do you feel that you are breaking through to these audiences?
Emotional storytelling is so important in terms of building the brand. You need to have that emotional storytelling element, and in order to do that, it has to be authentic and it has to be personal. Those are key elements to telling a great story. And then lastly is it needs to have constant evolution. We have to keep working at things to make them constantly better.
Music is driving culture. 91% of millennials and Gen Z see that as the most important aspect of what drives them from a culture perspective. And it has impact in other spaces, whether it be technology, style, apparel, et cetera. It kind of starts with music. And so when we look for how to bring Honda into that situation, we need to tell unique and compelling stories. We need to show unique and relevant performances, and we need to tap into music experiences that are happening and create value in that space.
We started the music platform over 6 years ago, and we've generated over 1 billion video views with the content that we've created.
Steve, you've got a really great story about how you came into the business, so maybe you can share a little bit about that with the audience.
I guess I would describe myself as the kid that was anxiously waiting to go to the computer lab to play Oregon Trail, if there's any other fans out there. My dad was a computer consultant, so he had a computer in the house, and so I had an index card box with index cards with all of my MS-DOS prompt commands to play all my favorite games. Like, that's kind of where I spent all of my time. I started playing competitively, so I was going to Blockbuster tournaments, so I would end up winning those, and I went to these MLG competitions, ended up winning those as well. But of course, gaming was just like, gaming. It wasn't something that you could create a career around. I went into finance. I built a financial planning practice in the Washington, D.C. metro area, pretty successful, and all the while still playing video games. This game came out, it's called League of Legends. So I was competing on the team, I was a player, and on weekends I was just like traveling around the world. I was in Eastern Europe and China and Korea. We won this event at PAX West. Someone by the name of Marcy came up to me after we won. She said, "Hey, I'd love to sponsor your team." And I thought, oh, cool, well, how much? She said, $240,000. I decided to leave everything I had built over the last decade plus in Washington, D.C. in this big financial planning practice with all the staff. We now are the largest esports team in the world. We have 72 athletes. We've won more prize money than any other esports team, and we've hosted more trophies than any other esports team in history. I would have never have dreamed of a time where I would be sitting on this stage next to Honda and saying, let's dream of something else. It's just awesome to have the Honda megaphone to that so that we can tell these narratives and these stories in a really compelling way.
A lot of what we try to do is listen and learn what we don't know and say, how do we contribute here? How do we create something meaningful to that community and start to establish a presence so that we can then go deeper and develop that purpose. We launched 2 weeks ago the first episode of a 6-part series called Level Up, which is really following the teams on their journey and to show what it's like to be playing at the highest level of the professional sport.
I mean, it just sounds like things are moving just so quickly for everything within esports and gaming in general. How do you organize that focus, Phil?
In terms of making sure that within gaming, we're telling emotional stories, that we're really being authentic and personal.
We just built a training facility for all of our esports athletes to develop and to train to win these trophies. And so that's just a really cool narrative that we've been working on for the last couple of years. And so you just want to be real and be in the conversation. And I'd say some of the biggest risks, just understand the space. If you don't understand, find people that really do. Find people like myself that just have lived under a video game rock all their life, and they just know what's going on. So that would be my advice.
Ryan, you talked a lot about the origin of these programs being built from starting with listening. So just as you guys are evolving and building this program, how are you thinking about that?
In gaming and esports, right now, it seems like the fans appreciate brands showing up. It adds a level of validity at this point, I think, and it also shows that we get it and that we're there. And so I think we have an opportunity now to say, well, okay, we're here, now what? What are we going to bring to the party?
We look to select artists to be part of the program that have these emotional stories and can really be personal and authentic. Their passion just really comes through.
If you can give this audience any insight into what you guys see is next for Honda and gaming, Team Liquid, would love some of that insight.
Well, I think one big opportunity is how we can bring the two worlds together. There's a lot of overlap between what happens in the music space and what happens in gaming. So there's some big opportunities to merge the two.
Thank you guys very, very much. Thank you for all the rest of the speakers, and appreciate it.
Thank you.